Welcome to Forsyth Business Radio, where local business meets community connection. I am your host, Amanda Pearch. I'm excited to introduce our guest. I'm joined by two of my friends, Karen Zapp and also John Withers.
Thank you, Amanda. We're pleased to be here.
Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for referring to me as a friend. That's a compliment that I treasure highly. There we go.
Lifelong learning as a segue to what you guys do with How Money Works.
Okay.
Karen, I would like for you to give us my aviator friend. What's a 1,000 level?
The 30,000
foot view. Now let's pretend like my audience has no idea what this is.
Well, How Money Works, our mission, our crusade, is to erase financial illiteracy. About 70% of Americans are considered financially illiterate, and we firmly believe that people cannot make sound financial decisions about their personal finances if they don't first understand how money really works. So we lead with that education. The primary book we teach from is called How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker. That was the original book that came out in the very tail end of 2019. And that book to date has been featured in the national media. I think it's about 370 times. We're talking the ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, NBC, Fox, plus all the financial press, Wall Street Journal, and numerous others. It's because it's the real deal. I mean, it's a book that's written so people can actually understand what the heck they're reading, and it's got these 8 characters, and their conversation walks you through the book. So it's meant to be understood for the average person as opposed to someone else in finance. We provide that education, Amanda, in different ways, but not everybody in How Money Works gives the classes like we do, but we enjoy going into classes. We'll go into a business, we'll go into a nonprofit, we'll go into, I don't know, if somebody's home association wanted to have a gathering in the community center. We did that once, yeah. So it doesn't matter where we go, but we go in and we give this class, and again, it's based on that book, and everybody gets a copy of the book at the end. And lasts about an hour. We do not charge for that class because, again, our founder, CEO, if you will, Tom Matthews, and author of the book, just believes that this is information everyone is entitled to have. And so we want that out there. And then, people aren't going to talk about their personal finances in a public setting. They may ask a generic question, but nothing really direct. So if they want to really then dig in, because the knowledge is one thing, but if all you do is just read the book and then set it down and go about your merry way, nothing is going to change. You've got to do something with what you've learned and take action, and we help with that too. The book lays out what we call the 7 money milestones, and if you address each of those areas of your life correctly, because what's right for you is not going to be the same for someone else. As John always says, everyone's financial picture is as unique as a fingerprint.
Huh.
Yeah. So you've really so let's say you were in one of our classes, Amanda. It makes it a little easier to talk that way. And you said, "Yeah, I do have some questions. You know, some of the things I learned here today, I don't think I've got them covered right in my life." So then we meet with you, and it's a conversation, and just to find out, okay, where are you at? What and where do you want to go, and how risk averse are you, or how comfortable are you with risk, and so on and so forth. There's a plethora of questions, and then if we can then figure out, okay, what types of solutions are going to fit for you. We're what we call independent, so we can choose from 140 different providers out there and really tailor something that's right for you. There's not a cookie cutter type solution that's going in there. And I had a thought and it went out there for a second, but it may come back to me. But then we'll make some recommendations, and if you say yes, I like that, and go forward with it, then John has got a number of licenses. He's got all of his different securities licenses, if you will. So I have life and health, and he's got that plus all the security licenses. So he's referred to it as investment advisor rep.
Ooh.
So again, we can, and the thing that I think is neat about How Money Works is that we do take a team approach, because let's say there was something in your situation, Amanda, that was rather unique, and maybe we hadn't encountered it before. We can reach out to other folks on the team. And of course, everything's always confidential. We're financial professionals, so it always remains confidential. But we can reach out to the team and say, hey, have you encountered this situation before? I almost guarantee you we're going to find someone that has, so that we can draw on that expertise and make sure that we're always coming up with the best solution for every client. So I think that's kind of unique, too. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the one person shops or anything, but I just, I think there's strength in numbers too.
Help me understand, for those who might, not have advanced knowledge of the world that you're in. You mentioned that you guys are big on the education, and I am such a supporter of that, because you have to understand it completely before you can even think about putting yourself in that position. You mentioned the team approach, and you mentioned that you guys are able to help with different arenas, but I don't understand the connection. So you guys provide the curriculum, you provide the tools and resources, and your goal is to meet with somebody on a more personal level so that you can understand their exact needs. So from there, you then help them with what specifically? Like a Roth? Are we talking about investments, or are we just talking about overall financial wellness?
There's a wide variety of things, and I'm going to let John take that part of that question.
Sure. As Karen mentioned, everybody's financial situation is unique. You can take 5 people making the exact same amount of money doing the exact same job, and I guarantee you that their financial situations will be completely independent of each other. Since this information isn't taught anywhere, typically what we know about money is what we see when we grow up. And so therefore it's luck of the draw. I mean, you may be fortunate enough to raise in a family that has a healthy relationship with money. You may be raised in a family that, like mine, that was working class, blue collar, that we had enough. But anything beyond enough was considered extravagant and was looked down upon. And then there are some that are just struggling to get by. So these are the types of relationships that people have with money. So our education is basically the foyer to the building. Okay, it is a place where anybody can come in and get out of the rain. They can learn, what they want. Some of the stuff may be old hat to them. Some of it may be brand new or whatever. But it's a look into meeting Karen and me and our team as far as who we are, what we do, and the types of situations that we deal with. Now, when it comes to personal finances, Amanda, you and I could sit here, we could talk about money all day long. We can talk about, what's going on in the stock market. We can start doing all this, and you and I can get in a very animated conversation about money, and you'll tell me all sorts of things that you believe and vice versa. When the subject shifts to our money, we clam up, okay? Because that's when the emotions come in, okay? And unfortunately, it's those conversations are the ones that need to be had. And there's a whole lot of reasons for that. I mean, I think, again, I'm speaking from a male perspective that, a lot of guys are just embarrassed to admit they may not know what they think they should know. I have seen, in some of the conversations that Karen's had, it's just that there are a lot of women who are hesitant to ask partially because they don't know who to ask, and sometimes they don't know what to ask, and they don't want to appear like,
embarrassed.
Exactly, embarrassed. Okay, looking foolish, reinforcing some kind of stereotype. So these are the things that we have to get past. But with my licensing, I'm a fiduciary. So what that means is I have to put the needs of my clients, of anybody I work with, above anything else. And in order to do that, I need to do as much due diligence as the individual will let me do, which means I need to ask as many questions, not only about what they have, but more specifically about what they want to accomplish, where they want to go, what do they want, what's important for them, okay? I'm not going to sit here and say, you need to save for retirement if they don't believe that's important for them. What they want is they want a new house, okay? So how can we structure things to get them, to do that? But once I know, because I'll go back to what I was going to say. Once I have a fair amount of confidence as to what they want and what they have, then I analyze the gap. Okay? And if you want to get from here to here, here are a number of pathways to do that. I keep track of what goes on in the financial world, but I'm not in there every second. Great for us. We have 4 or 5. One guy in particular I work with who lives and breathes the stuff. I mean, he literally has like 5 different flat screens and whatever, and just has all the stuff and all the new things that are coming out. And one of the things that people don't appreciate is just how fast things evolve in the financial industry.
Very fluid.
There are new types of products and services that are coming out all the time. Things that were the gold standard 5 years ago are considered antiquated. So somebody says, "Well, I talked to an advisor 10 years ago. I should be all set, right?"
It's a new book.
I'm not saying that you're in a bad situation, but you might be better. Okay, so. And that's one of if there's anything good that came out of the financial crisis of 2007, 2008, is that a lot more companies are a lot more proactive, a lot more people are a lot more proactive about learning about things. And then the government has started to hold people, industry accountable to make sure that you're putting your clients' needs ahead of personal gain. Yeah. And so now that I've said all that, to go back and answer your original question, once somebody comes in and has a class with us, or they see some information about us, whether it's a class or the book or something like that, the whole point of that is to start to make a kind of enough of a connection that they're willing to discuss if there's something that's bothering them, what's keeping them up at night. What's interesting is when I talk to spouses separately, and if I didn't know they were spouses, by virtue of what they're telling me financially, I'd never know they were married, because it sounds like 2 completely different situations. But what that means is typically what one partner is worried about is different from what the other partner is worried about. And sometimes that comes as a surprise to the other partner because, again, they don't talk about these things. Okay, so what I do is I establish a relationship, and if anything, I do what I can to give hope. Because without hope, then there's no motivation to do things. Money is one of those things that's going to require changes in behavior. And typically what happens is behaviors only change when something in life changes. People start thinking about losing weight when they go to the doctor and says, if you're going to have a heart attack if you don't, do something, okay? Or, somebody has come down with a disease, or situations I see a lot where you have people like, you're not quite there yet, but the sandwich generation. You have the people that are, you're starting to get that age group where they have young kids to take care of, and now all of a sudden they got to start taking care of mom and dad at the same time, okay? And they realize that they don't want to have their kids be in this position, 30 years down the road. Okay, what can we do to keep that from happening? So it's those kinds of things. And it just opens up the door for people to have conversations. And hopefully, with Karen and me and our team, they'll find somebody that they can resonate with. There are people that are going to resonate with Karen much more so than with me. I don't know why that is, but still, no. But
and vice versa.
Yeah. But and one of the advantages, and it hasn't come up before, but I will mention it, one of the advantages to Karen and me is, even though our last names are different, we are married, and we are married to each other. And that helps in the fact that, because she'll say, hey, this would be much better for him, or I could say, hey, that this would be much better for her, or the two of us can say, hey, we know a guy. Okay, the whole point is to make sure that and Karen is especially good at this. Is matching up somebody with somebody. Karen is a natural connector. Yeah, she really, really is. I've had to work on that skill. It doesn't come as naturally to me as it comes to her, but it's one of those things that has really, again, it's to the benefit of who we're working with. That's kind of a long answer, and I apologize.
No, it was
John,
very complete.
I'm going to take you back actually to the options, the types of solutions that we may come up with. That may have been part of your question, Amanda. again, they can vary depending on person to person. Someone may be, and I'll let you elaborate, but let's say someone is a young family and they're early on and they may not have a lot of wealth or assets built up, right? But they have a lot to protect. They maybe they've got the home mortgage yet, but they've certainly got that family, right? So there's insurance is what we're talking about there. And oftentimes it can be term insurance because it's very affordable. And we're not going to go into an insurance clinic here, but it's just understanding that there's two basic types of insurance. There's term and there's permanent, and when you might use both and when you might use one or the other, when you could use both. There's times you could have both, So the term is extremely affordable, and it's and so while they have very limited budget, not a lot of room, they can get great protection, And then as you get further on, then you want to start thinking about some sort of life insurance. Not everybody believes in it, but I tell you, the one time one of the breadwinners passes away and suddenly the family doesn't have enough money and they lose their house, they sure wish they'd had that life insurance, I mean, it's for the people that are left behind, It's not for the, the insurance policy on me isn't for me. It's for John and vice versa.
Medical bills.
Well, yeah, the medical bill, you name it, I mean, it's just there can be a lot, and you've lost that income, and you got to be able to survive for a period of time before you catch up. You can cover a mortgage. There's just lots of stuff. But some of the other things that the solutions might revolve around a Roth IRA or a regular IRA, or and some other types of products. And John, you can probably, but again, it's not it depends on the individual,
right?
What
Guys,
their goals are.
Kind of sounds like it's a very elite conversation that someone would be having with you, almost very personal, so that you can gain an understanding of exactly what they need or what they're looking to achieve.
Exactly.
I think a better word for that, Amanda, might be intimate. An intimate conversation.
Yes.
Okay. And quite often it may be a conversation that this person has only had inside their own head before. Okay. And sometimes it's an advantage if they're talking to somebody they don't know that well. I mean, it's like one thing, as opposed to, talking to someone that very, very well. It's like I have clients that are very, very good friends of mine, and they do that because I am a good friend of theirs, and they know that as a good friend, I will trust them. I also have very good friends that want to keep their friendships and their business relationships separate. Okay, that's entirely up to the individual. So it's my job to find out what's important to them, and then see where I can help. From a financial perspective, I don't have an accreditation as a certified financial planner, but we provide all the same services that a CFP does. I mean, there's a few things where they're setting up, some more of the legal things that they do and whatnot. Okay, but as far as the basics, one of the challenges that I think I didn't appreciate when I was in my 20s and 30s is just how important taking control of your finances in your 20s and 30s is, because and the effect that can have down the road, and we can have a whole podcast on all that. Okay.
In your experience, both of you, how much does one's upbringing play a role in what you guys are trying to iron out with them as adults?
It's about 130%. I mean, it really is. As I said, the types of things that we talk about in our class are not taught in schools anywhere. I don't know if you're aware of this. When we started, it was only 22, but now there are 28 states that have a requirement, only 28 out of 50 that have a requirement to teach some level of personal finance in high school. Okay, the minimum requirement is 1 hour.
In what, a year?
No, in the
whole time
in high school.
Several
One
years.
single hour
that is most states' minimum requirement to do that. Okay,
And some
That's backwards.
cases they may have the law on the books, but they haven't implemented it
okay.
yet.
Now, I don't know what your high school was like. I knew that my high school, again, was a small Catholic high school. You had teachers that were good in the subject they taught, which was, math and chemistry and physics and all of those kind of things, okay? And then you had the high school coaches that taught PE and health and, all the things that, that were okay. And so what happens, though, is in a lot of cases, the people that are teaching the classes in high school know, there's no, here, just go teach this. Okay, I'm not pointing fingers, okay? There are those that would say, I do not subscribe to this, but there are those that would say that this is done on purpose in order to keep people beholden to the financial industry, and that's whatever. And, I think there's just anecdotal evidence for that. The financial industry is the largest industry on the planet. If you take the next three, which is real estate, retail, and tech, if you take those three, add them together, multiply it by 2.7, you have the size of the finance industry.
Wow.
Okay. It is that night and day different. Okay. So the whole concept, though, of paying yourself first is such a foreign concept, and yet it is so valuable. It was one that I got when I was about 23. I didn't see it at home, but I got when I was about 23. Where we come in is one for those that don't understand that concept, is teaching that concept. But where we come in is like, okay, now that you're doing that, where physically are you putting that? Okay, because
savings account.
Because
I know it should be working for me, right?
It's one of those. Again, that's where the strategies come in. Okay, one of the things that I cannot do on your podcast, Amanda, is tell you what you should do or tell anybody what they should do, because I haven't done, as again, I'm required by law, my licensing, to make sure that I know what I'm talking about before I can give any kind of advice or blanket advice. And so I don't want to be in a position where I say something and somebody listens to your podcast and say, well, the guy on the podcast said it, whatever, so therefore I should go do that. Now, I mean, that's never a good idea anyway, but I didn't want it to give the to give the appearance of that. Those are the kinds of things that we get involved in with someone who is early in their career. There's a page in our book I refer to in our class. It's called the Financial X-Wave.
Look, Karen's already got it open.
The Financial X-Wave. And what it is the trajectory of life superimposed with the trajectory of finances. And typically what happens is at the start of somebody's working career, they may have a lot of responsibility because they've got a house, or they're paying off college loans, or they've got a family, they've got a mortgage, they've got a lot of responsibility, but they're just getting started, so they don't have a whole lot of money. Okay, what kind of strategies can we help them with that? As life progresses, their financial responsibilities start to decrease because you start paying the house off, the cars get paid off, the kids, grow up. Hopefully they leave home. They may not always do that. Okay. Okay. But they're starting to accumulate assets as well. Okay. Then the priorities change. Okay. Now they're thinking about, now the kids are taken care of. Now this is what's going on for me. I want to make sure I save for health. I want to save for this, save for that, the other. So it's an ongoing process. So it's never a one and done, type solution. And there are some things in there that we can offer that's help people get their situations straightened out. There are things that we can refer other people to, areas that we don't deal with. Karen and I specifically don't deal specifically with debt, but we have some resources, for people that that are in a situation where they need to worry about that.
General guidance, but if they need
specific help,
specific help,
that's not something that Karen and I do, but we have resources. So it is.
You hit the nail on the head, I think, when you said it's a very intimate relationship that you're starting to develop.
It is.
For those who are listening who are curious and they'd simply like to learn more, they'd like to take one of your workshops, organize one possibly, or just connect to have coffee and a conversation, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, there's always, they can always go to the website and getsmarterwithmoney.com. And up there you'll see John's name and contact information. And then, or they could email me, Karen.Zapp, and that's Z-A-P-P, two P's, at howmoneyworks.com. I'd be happy to set up a class or have them join one of our workshops or whatever. We're trying to get one organized here in the pretty near future, as a matter of fact, that would be open to the general public. But then again, we will come into a business or an organization and give the class at no cost. And it's kind of a turnkey operation. We make it as simple for them as possible.
Right.
So
one of the questions that I do get asked, I just want to straighten this up now, is do you offer anything online? And typically we do not, for the specific reason is the class in and of itself is kind of a lead-in, but basically in order to erase financial literacy, there has to be action. If I were to ask you, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if I were to ask you, when somebody is literate, what do you think that means?
That they can read?
See, that's what most people think.
That's not right?
No.
It's that they can't read.
It's that they have read. You're not literate because you can read. You become literate by reading. In other words, you have to read and have to learn something in order to be literate. It's the action of reading that makes you literate. So to erase financial illiteracy, it's the action of doing that so it's not enough, because if you knew how to read but didn't read, and Karen did not know how to read, what's the difference?
That I would be lazy.
Well, I mean, that's true. That's true. But as far as knowledge there, it's like if you knew how to do it but didn't do it, and she didn't know how to do it, it's the same. Exactly. It's the same thing. Okay. So when we talk about financial illiteracy, we're addressing 5 things. One, it's two of them people have figured out. Okay. They know how to spend money. We learned that first thing. Okay. We start bumming
with our allowance.
We start bumming mom and dad for everything. Okay. We do that. Okay. The second thing is eventually we figure out we got to find some way to earn it. Okay, so earning and spending we've got figured out. Okay, but there's also saving, managing, and investing. Saving is what it sounds like. It's taking money and putting it aside for some place that you basically what my mother would call rainy day money. Okay, investing is finding vehicles for our money to work while we're working, okay, for it to grow faster, to outpace inflation, to do all of these things. And then there's managing, and that's deciding where this money goes, what it does, when to pull things out, making the financial decisions as far as what my money is doing, what it should be doing, and what it shouldn't be doing. And so those are the things, especially growing up. I never handled, as a kid, I never handled money. I never handled a checkbook. It wasn't until I got into the Navy and I basically started earning my own money, and I realized I didn't really have any idea what I was doing. And I made a lot of foolish mistakes. And it wasn't that my parents didn't care. It's just that was, within 2 years of being a military officer, I was out earning my dad. Okay. So, but our situations were different. My dad was World War II generation, okay? He had a pension, a fully funded pension. He had fully funded Social Security. And he was very typical for his generation. He retired at age 65 and he was dead by 75. So he basically had, and that was typical for an adult male in those days. So your retirement was 10 years, okay? Nothing of that is true today. Less than 9% of companies have any kind of pension. Social Security, this is my opinion. Again, I'm stressing this is my opinion. I believe that Social Security will be around in some way, shape, or form because it's too valuable a program and no politician's going to sacrifice themselves to get rid of it completely. But it may change from how it is now to how it's going to be in the future. Again, that's my own personal opinion. But still, and then the next thing is it's like people are not living to 75 anymore, okay? A married couple like Karen and me, once Karen and I reach the age of 65, statistically, there's an 80% chance that one of us will live to be 90 years old. Okay, that's just what the numbers tell us, okay? The scientists tell us that they believe that the first person to live to the age of 120 is currently alive today. He or she has already been born. Okay, that is longevity. Okay, Most people are still in the idea of, okay, I want to stop working at 65 or 50 or 40. But they're going to, instead of the retirement lasting 10 years, it's going to last 40. Okay, so their money's got to, last all that long. Okay, so
Taxes, inflation.
all those things. Okay, and so sometimes I'm not necessarily a popular guy because I'm throwing cold water on people's faces. I said this is reality. Okay,
yeah.
I said, if you're 50 years old and you want to start saving, you have to save $8,000 a month, or some other or
Another method.
Or another method, right? So I'm not always the most popular guy.
Tell me what you know about fixed bearing Shimano pedals.
Fixed bearing Shimano pedals. I am not a bicycle mechanic, unfortunately. So I could probably understand what they are, but if there's a specific issue you're having with that, then
what type of bicycle do you have, and what type of pedals are on your bicycle?
I have it's a modified, specialized hybrid bike that I say modified in that it can be configured to ride on the road, or it can be configured to ride gravel. And the differences in that is it can take a wider width of a tire than a lot of the standard road bikes do. When I first got it, it's actually a Christmas present that Karen gave me. But when I was picking out what I was looking for, I wanted the ability to be able to do both without having to change whole bicycles. I wasn't going to get two bikes. Now I haven't done a whole lot of gravel riding. I was a runner for pretty much all of my adult life. I took up track and cross country in high school. I was a distance runner. I wasn't fast in anything, but I had the mentality for endurance running. I was a marathoner in college. I ran 5Ks and 10Ks into my 50s. And then I voluntarily gave it up because a lot of my friends who started running when I did were going through knee replacements and hip replacements and ankle surgeries, and I hadn't dealt with any of that yet, but I kind of wanted to keep it that way.
Yeah.
But I missed, I didn't run every day. I wasn't one of those kind of guys. But after a while, I kind of missed, and plus the fact that my weight really went up too after that. And then a friend of mine, when I turned 60, a friend of mine got me into cycling. And fortunately, at the time, we were living in a place where I could ride pretty close to the house without,
Traffic.
Well, I still had traffic, but I had shoulders, and wide rollers and trails and that kind of such. And then COVID happened, which basically shut down all the roadways, so I could ride anywhere I wanted to because there were no cars on the road.
Yeah.
Okay. So so that's when I really started riding. And what I like about that is, again, I was always a solitary runner, so I would basically, my body would get into a rhythm, and then but it let my mind wander, and it would just it was just so decompressing. It was my escape from stress and everything else that I could do all of that. And then cycling allows me to do that too, with the added ability to coast on the downhills.
Nice.
When you're running, you can't coast, but when you're cycling, you can.
Yeah.
So what's the big deal about these fudgy pedals?
Shimano is French, and they are the creme de la creme. They make bicycle parts, so they make gear sets, they make cranks, they make all kinds of stuff, and it's steel that is surgical steel essentially.
Okay.
Completed several brags, which is to the tune of 500 miles and over the course of a 6-day period. I don't cycle as much now for similar reasons. There's not too many safe places, and I don't care for urban cycling. Yeah. I have a Specialized as well, but I do have skinny road tires. More so, I've moved away from clips for my pedaling a long time ago after seeing several people take a spill because they can't unclip their toe.
Yep.
So I just have fixed bearing, is in reference to the bearing is not exposed. Right. It's nice, smooth fluidity, and they're just Shimanos.
Well, what I did is I outfitted mine with mountain bike pedals. So they have instead of having a toe clip, I actually have a clamp, on the ball of the foot, and then of course they're on either side, so I don't have to worry about
I brought that topic up, John, because you have a 110-mile ride upcoming, and I'd love for you to share the cause behind your ride.
I do. Thank you, Amanda, for allowing me to talk about that. This ride is called the Face of America. I'm not exactly sure where the name came from. It is put on by a nonprofit called World Team. team being the acronym, together everyone achieves more. It is designed specifically, the nonprofit serves people that have had some kind of traumatic injury, usually physical injury. In some cases, it's a traumatic brain injury. They have already gone through programs like Wounded Warrior or similar programs, of which there are a lot of them, and they all do great work. Okay, but once someone kind of graduates from those programs, they are about as independent and pretty much this is how life is going to be. Okay, and they're probably pretty mentally well adjusted, or as close as they can be based on their situation. So a lot of these are military veterans, first responders, injured in the line of duty. One of the things that they found over the years is someone graduates from one of those programs. It's like, okay, well, now what am I going to do? I can't do, in some cases, what I used to do. I need to have some kind of goal out there. I need to have something to look forward to. So what World Team does is they provide these types of events, whitewater rafting trips, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro trips, things specifically for people that have adapted and are looking to accomplish something. One of the things about people that have gone through and have accomplished something great is the fact that once that accomplishment happens, they are often lost now as what to do because they no longer have that all-consuming goal out in front of them. Okay, we saw this with the Apollo astronauts. When the astronauts came back from the moon and all of the press furor dived down, something like that, they realized that there's nothing in their life that's going to be able to compare to what they just did. Okay? And a lot of them had a lot of mental issues with that because it's like, the rest of my life isn't going to matter. No matter how long I live, I can never go back, to that. Okay? So they learned a lot in the study of those, and they've learned that someone that has worked to achieve, to get to a sense of normalcy, like, okay, now I'm at normal, what do I do? Then what? So it's like I see in the finance world, when somebody's trying to achieve a financial goal, they're saving for that house, okay? They've got the house, finally they got the house, well, now what? Okay, we don't want to do that. Those kinds of things. So World Team offers those. Offers events like that for people to participate in. What I like about the Face of America is that the adaptive riders ride along with us. So we have able-bodied riders. We are the ones that are actually doing the fundraising, raising money for that. We have people donate, to basically help us. That's the reason we're riding is for the donation. But a lot of the adaptive riders are riding like recumbent bicycles, or in some cases hand cycles and things like that. So the ride starts at the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and over 2 days, it travels northwest out of the Pentagon up to Frederick, Maryland, and then we turn north and go up, and we end up in Gettysburg National Battlefield on the second day. So there's probably total gain about climbing about maybe 3,000 or 4,000 feet. Well, a lot of these adaptive athletes can't do that. So what they do is they have their bicycles outfitted with these almost 10-foot tall poles. And what happens is when we get to a hill, one of the able-bodied riders will come up, they'll put their shoulder into the pole, and they will assist them up the hill. And there's an etiquette to that. There's a way to go about doing that, and it's a process, okay? But I mean, together, everyone achieves more. I mean, it really is, and this event specifically leans more toward military veterans because of the camaraderie. It's not exclusive, but it leans more that way. A lot of the able-bodied riders are former military. I did the ride in 2019. Then we moved down here. With COVID, it didn't happen in 2020, and then we moved down here. This is the first time I've gone back to do it, but I'm meeting with several of my academy classmates, and so us guys, the old guys are going to go up and
that'll be fun.
Oh yeah, we're looking forward to it. So
well, the ride is soon, right?
Yeah, the ride is in the 17th and 18th of May. So we're right here at the end of April. So
this show will be out by then. So please do share the website or how anybody that is listening might be able to contribute should they feel moved to do so.
Sure, I have a link. One of the things that didn't come up in our conversation is my nickname is Wiz, W-I-Z. So I have a link that says wizcycling.org. So that's W-I-Z cycling, C-Y-C-L-I-N-G, .org. And that's my donation link. It also had that link will take you to the page where you can either donate, or there's also links where you can find out more about World Team and what they do, other events they do. One of the things that we are proudest of is that they just released their 2024 unaudited financials, but 90 cents out of every dollar raised goes directly to the programs for the riders. Okay, 6% of it is for managerial and general expenses. The other 4% fund go toward the cost of fundraising. Okay, so it is one of the best rates of return on those kinds of things, and that's one of the reasons. But what I like about it is just because, okay, you know, it's helping people on the next step. Okay, it's like, congratulations, you've probably got through what hopefully will be the darkest period you'll ever experience in your life. Okay, welcome to life. Okay, now what? Okay. Then let's go. And that's always been me. I've always, Karen will back me up on this, and I know I'm taking most of the conversation. But one of the things that I have always found I like to do is find some area that is not being addressed and put myself in there and becoming the expert in that. And that's always been kind of like, rather than kind of go for, the high vis, a place everybody wants to go, says, let me find out something here, and then come to find out that this is kind of like I feel that too. You have big names, that are constantly on television for Wounded Warrior, and God bless them. We appreciate them and do all that. It's just that, I feel I can help better, by doing this route. So,
well, we're going to be cheering you on come that day. I do have one question for you. Follow up. How are you transporting your bicycle?
I am.
Is it flying?
No. I'm actually going to drive up. I'm going up a few days ahead of time. As I said, I'm riding with several of my Naval Academy classmates. We're going to get together. We've made an agreement that we're going to go easy on the liquid carbohydrates until after the ride. Just because riding. You
want optimal performance,
right? Okay. So yeah. I think we'll limit ourselves to pizza carbs, beforehand. Okay. But no, it's kind of fun because it's also it's kind of a mini reunion of sorts too. And it's just what I like about it. It's not a race. I mean, I love races. I do that, but I'm not at this point in my life. I'm not a racing cyclist by any stretch. But it's just like
hey,
yeah, it's a ride for the cause.
Well, for those of you out there listening, that was Face of America, and you can check out The Wiz at wizcycling.org.
That's
all right,
it.
that's how you can make a contribution.
Right.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. I look forward to following the success of your ride and also sharing how money works with our listeners.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Amanda.
you.
Really
Thank you for
appreciate
having
it.
us, Amanda. It's been a pleasure. It really has.
If you're interested in learning more about podcasting, community partnerships, guest appearances, or sponsorships available within Forsyth Business RadioX, connect with Amanda at amandapearch.com.